I changed my pricing structure from a flat fee to a percentage. So where I was making $20,000 to $25,000 for a full service wedding that was over $1 million plus, I'm now making 18 to 20% on that event. So like my retainer deposit is more than the biggest wedding I had ever booked. And that's one of 5 payments. You know what I mean? So that was a massive, massive change.
Welcome everybody to today's episode of the Business of Luxury Weddings podcast. It's a good one. Brooke Keegan, the incredible Brooke Keegan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me
to yap with us.
Thanks.
All important things. Welcome.
Very important things, yes.
Thank you.
I'm excited about today because you were already in the first 5 minutes before we hit record, like filled my brain with all sorts of good things. Yeah. So I'm excited about it.
Great. Thank you.
One of those where I start texting, just hit record.
Yes, now do it.
Do it. Now, go.
Anyway, tell us a little bit about you just for the audience to know, like, why should they listen to you?
Yeah, I don't know, but I can try. I've been in the industry for 21 years. I've owned my business for 15 and a half. I was a college volleyball player. Always thought I'd be a college volleyball coach. And clearly that didn't work out. The financial support wasn't there to be a coach. And so my parents were like, it's time to get a real job. I was like, okay, here we go. And our family has always been amazing at making celebrations big in our family, birthdays, anniversaries, anything like that. So I thought, why don't I dip my toe into the world of events? And so that's what I did 21 years ago. I started working for a planner on the weekends and then worked for a hotel to learn the whole hotel side of it, rooms, contracts, BEOs, all of that. I wanted to be able to have that knowledge for my clients. And worked for 3 other firms before starting my own. And here I am. So we're based in Newport Beach, California, but we never work in California. If we do, it's a random weekend in Napa or something like that. But we really focus. We do 4 to 6 events per year. We focus on multiple day destination. Usually we're mostly domestic destination. We do some international, but we're really kind of known for domestic destination, specifically mountain towns and just other random places. So that's a little snippet about me.
I'm curious, just on the international side, is that intentional for you? Like you're going, that's just, I don't know, too much or too many variables or?
So we do Mexico. We've done Europe before. I think the stretch to have a West Coast planner get to Europe is a little bit more challenging. I mean, I know a lot of West Coast planners do Europe a lot. We've just only done a few. For me, which I think we're going to get into this talk, it's if I'm out of the office for 5, 6, 7, 8 days for just a site visit, it's going to cost the client. And sometimes they're not willing to pay that. And that's totally fine. So sometimes East Coast planners are best suited for Europe, but I love it and we do it. And we're talking to a client right now for Paris that we're probably going to book. So we do it. It's just not as prominent.
I'm curious because it seems to be a main theme of ultra luxury planners. Like when we ask about the history is that they've kind of dipped their toes in all aspects or many aspects of the business, from hotel side to hospitality to food and beverage to floral to. How important is that, do you think, to like getting to the top, being where you're at today? Is that foundation that was laid by working with all those people? Is that a must? Because it seems like everybody has done that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, for me, like specifically working for a vendor, I, worked at the hotel side. I did work with a video team for about 6 months, just helping them with some admin stuff and just getting their whole business up and running. But I've said this forever, like you, as a planner, it's our responsibility to know as much as we can about each category. So for instance, like photography, I really dove into some amazing photographers that I admire and talked to them about lighting and timing of day and pacing of events. And what do you like to do here? And like now I know that where to set stuff up because I know what the good light is and where the diffuse light, and so that's not my trade. I'm not a photographer. Like I could barely take a photo on my iPhone, but I wanted to learn that that's part of it. Like my lighting team, I've talked to them about power and generators and how we need to do that. Like I, as a planner, have gone in and have dove into people that I respect and have learned so much in each category. Am I an expert? Absolutely not. But I know what I'm talking about. The client feels confident. I know what I'm talking about. The vendors respect that I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not asking them some crazy astronomical thing to do because I understand where they're coming from and how what they need to do their job well. So from catering to photo to video to floral, like I could not even touch floral. Like God bless them. The rental team, like building the rental teams, like building the tents and all of that. But I've also learned like the tension on the poles on the tents and surveying the ground for the stakes of all the things to go into. Like I have learned all those things along the way and asked those questions. Am I an expert? Absolutely not. But I think that that's what makes planners successful is when they have the full picture and understand. And of course, we're learning every single day. But having that foundation, I think, has been so important.
That touches on what I was going to ask. It's the other consistent thing that I hear with people at the top of the game like you is years and years of hard work, right? Like it didn't just come overnight. It's not just quick and easy. And so when we were, before going live, we talked about this a little bit and you said something like, it's not this easy. You know, it's not just all happy-go-lucky, essentially. Let's work in a wedding space because the cost of entry is low. You can just step into it. If you really want to succeed, you're going to need a proper business, right? And you talked about that. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that right now, you know, when I started 21 years ago, there wasn't social media. There wasn't any way to really touch this market unless you kind of knew it and got into it and were meeting people in person in these groups. Now it's like social media, everything, like you said, there's no barrier to entry into our industry. So all these people are entering into it right now. They were a bride and thought it was fun. So now I'm a planner. You know, I took a photography class in college. It was fun. Now I'm a wedding photographer. You know, those things have happened. And I think there's two things. One is a lot of people are entering into our market expecting to be in the luxury or ultra luxury space within 1 to 3 years. I mean, I feel like I didn't start making it in my business truly like where I could go to sleep at night, not worry about finances, know I had business coming in the door. I mean, I was year 13 or 14 before that happened. Like, truly, like, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And you have to have the patience to be able to do that. What comes with that too is when you enter this industry, because it's fun and there's a lot of great things, you do this almost as, not that you're looking at it as a hobby, but it is fun. All your friends want to talk to you about it because it's so fun and it's a party and you're traveling and, you know, Justin Timberlake performed at the after party and, you know, all these crazy things. And it's like, yeah, that's fun, but how did that happen? And I think a lot of people are entering it as I did, where it's such an emotionally driven industry. And so you want the best for your clients. So sometimes you'll compromise like, oh, I won't get paid as much, or I won't charge as much so that they could have this, or they could have that, or she really wants this after party, whatever those things are. And I think that when I started, there was kind of this in 2015, I had this epiphany of like, my business is running me and now I need to run my business. And my whole mind shift, like I had a mind shift about like, this is a business. Like, what am I doing? Like, I feel bad. I'm not charging. These people are spending hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars on an event, and I'm worried about charging them $5,000 for something. It's crazy, right? And so until I said to myself, this is a business, this is a true business. If you don't appreciate or admire how I run my business, then we're not the right fit. And once that happened, my whole world has changed as far as my personal time, emotionally, my mental health, my finances. I mean, being able to pay my mortgage without even having to worry anymore. Like those kinds of things all fell into place. Now, it wasn't easy. It was a couple of years of really saying no and saying no, and, saying no again and again and back and pushing back. And that, I think, is what really shifted my entire career, is realizing this is fun, but this is my livelihood and it's a business. And people know this. I'm single and I don't have a second income. right? It's one household income. I got employees, and I've got independent contractors, and I've got all these people that I need to take care of. And so, if I'm not treating this like a business and I'm not making it and running it like a business, then I'm not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about I hear what you're saying. It's a mindset shift, and that's kind of the beginning of that. But practically speaking, once you've had that mindset shift, what are some of the things like that you worked on in the business in that 1 to 2 years after you've made that mindset shift? Like, what's important?
Yeah. So, I was doing everything on my own. So I hired a full-time employee. It was the first thing that I did, which was very scary because her salary was more than I'd made in 3 years combined, I feel. But I took the leap of faith going, I can't grow if I don't have the help. In the same exact month, I changed my pricing structure from a flat fee to a percentage. So where I was making $20,000 to $25,000 for a full service wedding that was over $1 million plus, I'm now making 18 to 20% on that event. So like my retainer deposit is more than the biggest wedding I had ever booked. And that's one of 5 payments. You know what I mean? So that was a massive, massive change too. And then I also told myself, and it was hard, but I kind of touched on this, like I just had to start saying no to things. And I had to just not accepting being treated certain ways or being a kind of a pushover, all of those things. I just really said, I need to focus on that and start doing the things that I want to do. Like I was, working 24/7. I'm sure all of us have, and we still do miss family events and best friends' weddings and all of those things because of the line of work we're in. But I just started now, you know what? My friend's getting married. I'm blocking that off in the calendar, and that's just what it is because that's what's important to me. So starting to be able to do those, like prioritize those few things really kind of helped change everything for me.
Yeah, because in success, you can start buying back your time, right? The value proposition shifts. Because in the beginning, as a small business owner, as long as it's bringing it in, I'm like, bring it. We need all of it. But then at some point, you reach that ceiling and it's like, oh, money's not worth this much anymore. So I'm going to buy some of it back. You know what I mean? I'm going to say yes to the family more and shift. Absolutely. And it's a privileged position. But
yeah, it really is. And it's taken so long to get there. It didn't happen
so long.
It really has taken a long time. I mean, when I started in this industry, I was doing 25 or 30 weddings a year, day of coordination at $2,500 a pop. I mean, I started there, very fortunate to live in Orange County and in a place where people spend a lot of money on events. So I was always doing luxury weddings, but I myself was only charging, $2,500, $4,500, $8,500, And so you have to do quantity over quality there. Now it's been a complete shift and it's quality over quantity.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It seems again like the biggest problem was your mindset, not your clients, right? Because like you said, so they were having $1 million weddings, you were charging 25K and then you switched to a substantially bigger percentage and you're not out of business. I see the market was just fine with your shift.
Yeah, right? It was. I mean, I heard a lot more no's, because when I was doing these lower package type weddings, I was working at mostly resorts that required a planner, right? So it's like you're working at these 5-star luxury resorts, Montage and the Auberge or Belmont Group. They have amazing catering teams, catering managers. And so the client sometimes doesn't value what we could bring to the table because they have such an amazing staff at this 5-star hotel. That's where I was at because, I live in Southern California. We have all these, we're very resort driven here. So that's where I was at. So when I changed this percentage, it was really a whole different type of clientele. Even though they had the same type of money, it's what the values were. It's what they did. It's where they like to spend their money. These new clients now value travel so much. They value, doing stuff in privacy. So at their private estates places, so it was a different type of clientele that I now had to navigate how to talk to them, how to work with them, how all of that went. But yes, the money is there and the clients were there. I just needed to learn how to tap into that type of, client.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious, what do you think is, because we kind of talked about two things here. Like you put your time in, you did where you built a business, but at some point you had this mindset shift. and all of a sudden things took off. How much is it of a function of the mindset shift? Like if you had had this mindset shift at year 6 instead of year 13, do you think you would have seen similar results? Or do you think, man, I just needed to put that time in, and at some point I had this mindset shift and it all worked together?
I think it was the perfect timing for me because I had to gain that experience and go through that and do these types of different events. Like you can't go from doing lovely weddings to ultra luxury just because you change your mindset. Like, right. We all wish like, hey, I want to book J-Lo's wedding tomorrow. Like, yeah, that's really cool. But are you in the position to do that? You know, so had I switched earlier? I don't know, maybe, but I just felt like I got to a point where I was like, there's got to be a change. I want to make a change and I'm willing to work for that change because our industry is, you know, everything in our life is planned 12, 14, 16, 18 months in advance. We're just constantly in this cycle of being in our business and not working on our business. And so for me, you know, I wanted to just stop, put a halt on everything and focus and work on my business and figure it out. And that's when I felt mentally ready to do that. And that's when I made that decision. So I think it was perfect timing for me in that. And I think it was realistic too. And I think that's why I succeeded at it is because I had been in the industry for 14 or 15 years by that time. So like I had seen so much and experienced so much that I knew where I wanted to get and the steps I needed to take. And I've had amazing mentors along the way within the wedding industry and outside of the wedding industry. You know, I always talk about, if you've heard me speak before, I always talk about having your advisory board. For me, my advisory board has, you know, a lot of wedding industry people, but a lot of people that are just amazing business people that I trust and respect. And, you know, my favorite quote is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And so for me, I try to surround myself with so many people so that I could achieve those goals and have people challenge me and hold me accountable too.
So smart.
I love that. I'm just curious, how frequently do you tap that advisory board? What's that like? Is that like a once a quarter or once a year? Are you just like texting them all the time? What's the deal?
Unofficial advisory board. I mean, some people might not even know that I consider them on my advisory board. But I try, once again, life happens, but I try to at least, I think right now I have 8 people I try that are in my mind on my advisory board. And I try to tap into them at least for a half an hour a month. I know that's a lot, but even if it's just quick texting, if it's a call, if it's a Zoom, a lot of times too, like they'll call me to like ask me for advice, which is amazing. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then I'm not the one bugging them. But yeah. And sometimes sometimes it's a couple times a month because it's like circumstantial. If something's happening, wedding somewhere. And I want to get, you know, this person's opinion on it, or how would you handle it, you know?
And I'm curious, Brooke, like, have you always done this, or did this come into being since 2015? It feels like in 2015, you got intentional and then it shifted.
It was 2015. It was, I sat down and I wrote down, what do I not like in my business and what am I going to do to change it? And one of the things was not networking and connecting with people that are smarter than me. And so that was create my advisory board. So that was one of the 8 points that I had during.
But I love patterns and habits like this, right? Because look now, what is it, 5 years later, like you have this intention, this pattern of once a month, at least 30 minutes, you're tapping somebody else and going beyond yourself. And then when that like over years, it compounds and all of a sudden you're way smarter, way smarter.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just, you know, our whole industry is based on relationships and trust. And for me, it's like, it's so amazing to just gain these relationships and these trusts with these people. And these, you know, from planners to photo to video to, like I said, I have, you know, my financial advisor happened to be a client of mine that's now one of my good friends that's also on my advisory board. Like, so there's like so many different people that I love. But like you said, little nuggets of wisdom and always learning throughout the years, it becomes massive, a massive amount.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. That's amazing. You mentioned, just want to circle back, because before we hit record, like I said, I should have hit record earlier. You were mentioning something kind of with this mindset shift and running your business like a real business. There was some specific challenges maybe that you had to experience with maybe some pushback from clients, or can you walk the listener and us through what were some of those challenges that when you change that model, and maybe even start talking here about what are the challenges to going to a percentage? What are those challenges? What can somebody expect? I love what she's saying. I want to change my mindset. I want to work on my business, not in my business. What's the pushback going to be? What are the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to ask people for something that's it's a pretty big ask, and for them to trust you, right? So once again, there's no barrier to entry into our industry. So if I'm coming to a client and the dad is calling me and is willing to spend $5 million on an event, why should he trust me? Like, what's my qualification? Like, how am I going to spend that money? Like, what does that look like? So for me, like that challenge was having enough confidence and knowing it enough, like learning the percentage model pricing, how it works, diving in, knowing every question they could possibly ask, role playing with certain friends that are doing it, them telling you the ins and outs of all of those things, like learning it so much that it becomes second nature. It's just like you guys talking about photography, like, it, right? So you just have to learn it in second nature. And, there is going to be pushback. I feel like there's the client that is like, we don't value the planner in that regard. We just need them to kind of finish up or whatever we're doing. And so we're only going to pay this amount. But for the clients that are willing to spend 18, 20, 22% on something that's a multi-million-dollar event, there's got to be a lot of trust there. And what was different for me was in the previous booking times, it was like, oh, okay, the risk isn't that big. I mean, it's big, but it's not that big. So like, fine. Now it's multiple interviews. It's sometimes on the multiple calls. It's budgeting calls. It's them talking. Almost every single one of my clients now will call, which I offer, which a lot of planners I don't think do, but I offer to call my references. Like, I want you to talk to people that I've worked with before. I have moms, dads, clients, like all of them in this, referral list. So, the challenge, the one of the biggest challenges was knowing my worth and what I was going to do, and actually learning how to sell to these multimillionaire or billionaire clients and sounding educated and knowing what I was talking about and gaining their trust. Because once you gain their trust and they book with you, it ends up being like such an amazing process. But it's really about getting these business people to respect you and trust you, which is tough when sometimes you're in your 30s or 40s and you're talking to men in their 60s and 70s that are worth billions of dollars. It's a challenge, And
it is. It is.
It is. And so I think it took me a while, James, but what I think one of the biggest things was I heard no a lot more, and that was okay. Because let's say I heard no 5, 6, 7, 8 times, but what if those were $25,000 jobs? But then I got the one yes at the 9th or 10th try, and that ends up being a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 job for us. So it kind of, they outweigh each other. So, but that was a huge challenge because, mentally you're just like, no. Again, like, how do you keep your morale up? How do you keep going? Like, keep learning and keep going. And that was one of the biggest challenges, was being okay with hearing no so much. And then gaining the respect of the client. And I tend to look younger than my age. And so a lot of clients, which is not a bad thing.
Lucky you.
But a lot of clients say, there's no way you've been in this industry for 21 years. And I'm like, but I have been, And so also kind of on the Zoom, getting over the hurdle of like, no, I really do have this experience too.
How much, you said you were a college athlete, volleyball player. How much of that get back up, never quit, did you learn as being an athlete, and has that carried over, or is there something you learned in this process, like no is okay? Because I hear you saying it, and I can hear people going, yeah, I can try again. But is there certain strategies, or is there certain things that you did to get back up, like to tell yourself?
Yeah, failure is never an option for me. I come from a line, I'm an athlete first, and it was incredible time management, teamwork, collaboration. I mean, all of the things that you get playing a team sport, has been so amazing. I actually had another planner say to me the other day, "You're such an athlete because that's how you run your business." And I thought that was really a funny, kind of a funny thing for her to say to me. Yeah, exactly. But I think, and coming from a long line of entrepreneurs in my family too, I think that's been great. I just have always been the type of person that you're going to figure it out. And it might not be the right path that you thought it was going to be, but you have to figure it out and you have to keep trying. You can't fail. And so for me, it was just okay, I keep getting no. I'm not saying in the first, I think 2 or 3 years, I have this all written out somewhere, but first 2 or 3 years, I was still taking flat fee jobs because I heard no so many times. I freaked out and I was like, I have to pay the bills. So, I took a flat fee job just because I was like, okay. But then the mindset has to be, don't resent this client for only paying you this. You said yes at this time because you needed that money at that time. Right. And so for me, it was sometimes you just do things in slower times. Yeah, we do one-on-one coaching. Yeah, we do this. We go speak at conferences. We do podcasts. We do all of these things. That's also bringing in different revenue streams too. So it might not just be that one certain thing that you do within the industry, but yeah, for me, there's just never been an option to fail. And I think that being an athlete really did kind of help that, mindset.
Yeah, but you were talking about this in the beginning as well, before we came on, about this idea of making money while you sleep. And so I get this transition zone going from flat fee to percentage. There's a transition for a few years. You have to play that game, take it, they slide up and slide down, speak. But then earlier you were talking about in success now having the ability to buy back your time, And so diversifying this, isn't this a great position to be in, right? An earned position again, years of earning it, but now you can put that success to work for you, right?
Unless you're a rental company, I mean, even floral, if you're a big production floral design house, you can do so many events per year, right? But for us, most of us in this industry, we max out at however many jobs we can do. Some people that's 5, some people that's 40. It doesn't matter what that is. There is a ceiling on what we can do as a small business. So for that, what is next? Make money while you sleep. I don't want to be a wedding planner till I'm 85 or 90 years old. I just don't want to do it. So what am I going to do? That's why I got into education. Outside of the wedding industry, I have investment properties now in different states. I am doing things to diversify to make money while I sleep. And for me, I think it's so important. I don't think there's enough of that talk in the wedding industry. As a whole, I think that it's starting to come up and people are starting to get a little bit more savvy with it, because I also feel like this industry has blown up and there's so much more money in this industry than there was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Crazy, right?
We weren't seeing $50 million weddings 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And now we are. It's wild, right? So I think just getting smarter. And I mean, I have an amazing team as well. I have a financial advisor, I have a bookkeeper, and I have a CPA that all talk to each other. And it's amazing in that we're just strategizing and figuring out, where's the money going? What am I doing this quarter when I take my quarterly distribution? Where is those funds being allocated to? Is it within the education space of the wedding industry, or are we completely taking it outside of the wedding industry? And so there's just a little bit of, strategic talks there with people outside of me as well. Because it's so important to just, everyone always says, stay in your lane, which I agree with in the wedding industry, stay in your lane. I'm not a planner doing floral and shooting photos too. That's not what I'm doing. I'm a planner and I'm a planner full time, but there's other things that I should be putting some effort into that's going to help me in the long run, especially for retirement.
Yeah. It's again, collaborators, bring in better people, bring in an accountant, bring in a financial advisor instead of giving yourself advice, which apparently is not great. Otherwise you wouldn't need one. Get experts, right? And you just up level, you get better.
And that was one of my things in 2015 too. It was create a team. I need people working for me, with me. So
yeah. What's that thing we heard, James, with some CEO that was saying any task he can do, the moment he hits a point where he can find somebody else to do it at 70%, he outsources it. He's like, I'm done with this now. Because they can grow that 70% better, but I can go do something else now. And this is the mindset you have. I hear it. You're like, somebody else can do this now. I'm going to do that. And then you maximize and you grow way beyond.
And it is really hard for us in our industry to let things go. You guys know, I mean, like, think about you guys like sending stuff out to be edited or whatever that is. Like, you're like, no, I was there. I want to touch it. Like, but at some point, you know, when I have my director of events handling the whole production schedule, like at some point I just have to say, I trust you. I hired you to do your job. It's going to be amazing. And I have to let you do it because I don't have the time or capacity, or that's not the stuff that I find fun and fulfilling anyways. So, you know, that trust level is really hard to let go when you're starting a small business in such a emotionally driven industry. And we don't have, and you know, our teams, we don't have 100 employees. I mean, some do, the right companies and that things, but it's us. So who are you going to let into this little tiny bubble that you're going to trust, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other part about that, a light bulb just came on for me in the last 6 months, I think. I learned, I listened to Daniel Priestley, who's an entrepreneur, quite a bit. He was talking about this idea of the illusion of limited resources. For so many years, I would be like, oh, I cannot hire an accountant because I can't afford it. I can't hire a bookkeeper because I can't afford it. I can't like have somebody else edit it because I can't afford it. But if I look back at the history of my life and my business, every time I've made a move like that, the resources magically are found. It's like the illusion that the resources aren't there. You just haven't tapped into the resource yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just love that whole concept because he was just talking about it on a podcast. Like, there's the language for it. Like what I've experienced.
Yeah.
Go after it. You will find the resources. So anyone who's listening to this who can't afford an accountant, can't afford to let control go, it's an illusion. It really is.
I think too, it's also being smart. Like I interviewed several accountants, like, because I needed to find one that A, I felt comfortable with, but B, that I felt comfortable with their pay structure too. Like I wanted to find, you know, same with my financial advisor. Like I wanted to find someone that I felt comfortable, my bookkeeper, how I felt comfortable paying. Like, even though I knew it was going to happen, I just wanted to find someone I felt really good about. Because, you know, that is a thing to let go of and you need help with that. But same thing in 2015, I went from hiring a full-time employee and changing to percentage and all within a month. And it was the scariest thing I ever did, but it was fine. And I've been very transparent about this. I made payroll all the way till month 14. Month 14, I couldn't make payroll. And I started crying in front of my employee and was like, I can't pay you. And she's like, don't worry about it. Get me next time. And she kept working. And I was just like, that is the sign of the most incredible employee. Was able to pay her back? Absolutely. And that was the only payroll I had ever missed. But it was devastating for me. But it was also an amazing thing going 14 months of literally having a full-time employee, supporting myself and changing my entire business model. It was pretty successful. But like you said, it took a lot of hard work and you just got to do it. I know it's so scary, but you got to take big risks to get big rewards, right? So
yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
What else? What kind of like, how can we?
Yeah, I'll give an authentic moment here. I'll be honest. I've always been very intimidated by you, Brooke, for whatever reason. I don't know why. I know it's so interesting for me being in this call with you now. And I'm like, I do this like silly man. Like, you're lovely. You're not intimidating at all.
Oh my
It's so funny, the shit we make up in our heads, you know?
Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw that in there. You know, because I know some photographers are sitting here listening to this and going, I'm not going to work with Brooke Keegan. Like how, like so far off. I'm just saying a lot of this stuff, like with pricing and infants fees, is just in your head. You're the problem. You're the thing in the way. And that's bad and good because it's totally fixable.
Right. Well, I'm sorry you felt that way. I feel like
that's on me. That's the point. Funny.
Oh my gosh. You know, and just to kind of circle back to business on that point, when you said like, oh, I'll never work with Brooke Keegan. I think what's so important in our industry now, which we kind of touched on before, is like so many people are entering this industry and thinking that they're going to make it in 1 year to 3 years. I think that there's got to be time and progression. And so my biggest piece of advice when people ask me like, what's a big piece of advice for people in the new people in the wedding industry. My first one is get out, don't do it. But then the second one is to really grow your business. You have to know where your place is in the industry, and you should be working one level up. So there's a lot of times that there's photographers that are out there charging $8,500, but they're trying to work with Marcy Bloom and Lynn Easton and all of these people, right, that are normally charging or using vendors that are in the $50,000 to $150,000 range or whatever. I'm just, throwing out numbers. So for me, I think it's also really important, even as a planner, even as photo, video, whatever you are, like you should be looking at leveling up. And that's what putting in the time is, what's that next level up? We're up. Who are those planners on that list? Who are those photographers on that list? All of those things. And I think that's what's super important. And I think the mindset around geographic location has also gone out the window, which I'm so grateful for. It doesn't matter where you're based. You can fly anyone in. And what's the cost of travel, to be honest? Like a couple thousand. Yeah. I mean, it depends on where you're going.
Right,
and how
Gary.
But it's a very minimal cost to build your business. And so I think that's super important too.
I love that, but that's that athlete mindset again, I thinking in. It's just like, add 5% this week and just come back again and do it again. You add 5%, you struggle a little and you add it again. And then you get stronger, you get faster, you grow.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying about like that, like trying to work with people that are just aspirational to you, right? Not necessarily going for the moon. And maybe you go after that as well, but with the expectation that, hey, maybe that's a 7 to 8 year journey where, like, look, if I am reaching out to somebody who's I'm aspirational, but I'm almost at their level. I mean, that's positioning, right? That's branding, that's positioning.
Absolutely.
And that's an important piece of growing.
But that's always the reality. Go ahead, Brooke, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and like, for instance, like we've never worked together, right? But I, of course, have known about you guys forever. You guys work with all my friends. Like I know that there's going to be a time where we're going to end up working together. But that's because I've gotten to know you guys and your work and through your reputation through other people as well, that's kind of how that builds. Like we've known about each other for however many years. It's like, it hasn't happened yet, but I know it's going to happen at some point. And so it's just, it's that kind of constant, communication and relationship building. I think that's so important, especially for us planners that do 4 to 6 events a year, sometimes 8 events a year. There's so much incredible talent out there. To get one slot working with, somebody it's hard. It's big time. It's like, it's hard and it's a challenge. And so, same with us too. We've wanted to work with people and they're never available when we need them to be. So, I just think it is really important to just continue those relationships and move forward that way.
And it should take time. You're talking about working with the best of the best, right? Like we want to work with Brooke Keegan. I'm like, wanted to work with Michelle Rago or Lynn Easton or whoever. It's taken us 7, 8, 6, 9. With you, we're still in progress. And I'm like, but that's okay. That's what it should take. So here we are, trying to work with Brooke Keegan. Like just, here we are. Like, what the hell?
You got it, Arno. You got it.
No, but that is the game.
Yeah.
It's layering it on little by little over time. You talked about influence, competence, brand story, experience.
Well, and there's a lot of younger people in the industry. When I say younger, I don't mean age. I mean how long they've been in the industry. And they're like, I'll shoot something for you for free, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And I understand where that's coming from. But what they have to understand from me is like, my clients just trusted me with $4 million for a 6-hour event. So in 6 hours, $4 million is coming to fruition. If that is not captured perfectly, that is going to, that is just, I can't trust. Like if I can't trust that it's going to be done properly and the right way and my clients are going to be thrilled, like I can't take that risk. I have to really trust that those people are going to deliver for me. I need to make sure my tent's not going to collapse and my video team's not going to be seen and my, whatever it is, like I'm worried about this event in 6 hours. The last thing you need to worry about is who's capturing it and is it going to be captured properly and are my clients going to be thrilled?
No, so, that's huge.
What comes with that is experience.
Yeah. Because we say that to photographers. Photographers always think, for example, it's all about the photography. And we're saying, no, this planner now, you're on this week, you're in this zone, you just said, this 6-hour, $4 million zone. The number one thing to the photographer is still photography. To the planner, it's good collaborators. I want people so we can orchestrate this thing. The good photo is a given. No gold stars for that.
Right.
Work with me. Be valuable to me. Reliable, like you said. 4 or 5 times a year I dance with you. Like, I'm going to pick carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be the most positive, supportive collaboration. I mean, things happen. Like, I had a wedding where literally 10 minutes before the ceremony, we had to clear the entire reception area because of a massive storm that came in, and clear the entire reception area and build a ceremony area within 10 minutes. I had the guys from the band stage jumping off the band stage. Like, they were helping. I had photo, I had video, I had the lighting guy. I mean, every single person you can imagine didn't ask a question. They dropped everything and helped. And it's like, you never, ever, ever, ever want to be in that situation. But when shit hits the fan, you want your team to be there and be there to help you and not go, I don't really move tables. It's like, okay. You know what I mean? So, being able to be supportive and have those people around you that they have your back and you have their back too. Incredible. Like, it's just it's peace of mind that we have worked so hard for,
Yeah. And just so you know, we move tables. We are willing to move tables. We can move it all.
Right?
Yeah. Collaboration is
adding
important.
a little value in there right at the end, just sneaking it in, just so we're clear. You do move stuff.
Yeah.
I
love it. You talked a little bit about people offering you a freebie here, there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that, because we're always saying to other photographers, videographers, hey, one of the things you need to bring is opportunity, bring value. And photography, maybe photography isn't that value. At the end of the day, Isaac Otto is saying, great photography is a given. If Brooke Keegan is hiring James and Schultze, we're going to knock it out of the park. You have to. It's $4 million for 6 hours.
Right.
You can't wonder like what settings I need to use when I walk in this room.
Right.
But on the way to getting to that place, what are some things that bring value to you in a collaboration or pre-collaboration that I could bring to you that somebody can bring?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is always a tough one because I get this question, like, how do I get to work with new planners? And I do a lot of coaching for photo and video teams that are a little bit younger in their career. And for me, it's really just establishing relationships without being crazy. Because there's a lot of things don't send me gifts. Like, if I have a scented candle with your logo on it, it's not going on my mantle. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. Like, don't send me a magazine that cost you $5 million to put together of your work. Because guess what? I can see that online or on Instagram. Like, you just spent so much money. And so what ends up happening is we're in the office, we get all these gifts, we throw them in the middle of the table. We say, who wants anything? No one takes anything. We literally open the trash can and it goes in. So, and it's sad because I'm like, this is thousands of dollars that people are spending to try to get our attention. So for me, I think it's organic. There's a couple different ways. Organically create relationships over social media. Like, if someone posts something and it means something to you, like I posted something from Sun Valley today. Like, if you've summered in Sun Valley, ping me a note and say like, oh, we summer in Sun Valley all the time. Great. You start creating that relationship. It should be meaningful. You should like things. It shouldn't just be, and don't message me every day or all day or whatever that is, right? If for some reason you're going to send a gift, because some people just feel like they have to send a gift, get to know who this person is. Get to know who they are and what they like. Like, I'm just putting it out there. I mean, I love red wine, so I get a lot of red wine shipped to my house for me. Like, everyone knows I love it.
Strategic. I love this.
Strategic. But also put yourself in the same room as these people. I know it's hard, but like, if you know these planners are going to be at Engage or at a WIPA event or an ABC event or DWP or whatever these things are, yes, I know that's a lot more challenging to do that, but like, try to get in the same room as them if you can. I think one of my favorite photography relationships that I have is I met a photographer at Engage. We knew each other for 4 years, just through Engage, through social media, whatever. She had the opportunity to shoot a fam trip. So I'm sure everyone listening knows what a fam trip is. If not, it's a familiarization trip where they host a bunch of planners to hopefully bring that property business. So
free food and wine.
Free food and wine and spa and all the amazing things. But more and more now, they're having photographers come on them to capture them so that the planners can truly be immersed into the experience and not have to feel like they have to have their phone out the whole time capturing it. Plus, it's professional photos for the venue. It's professional photos for us. It's amazing for the photographer or whatever. So anyways, she was shooting a fam and she reached out to the property and said, hey, would you be okay if we invited Brooke Keegan on this fam? I really want her to experience my work. I was invited on the fam. I was at the fam. I saw all her images. I saw how she worked through the whole week. I loved her images. I actually posted them on my social. Like I got to experience her. The next year, I was able to hire her for a big wedding that we did, a build in Sun Valley. And so like, it was just, she was proactive in like, you know what? I have an opportunity. And maybe what if the venue said no? She at least tried. But it ended up working out. And now we've done 2 events with her. So, just trying your hardest to do that. Like, sometimes shooting headshots or like those kinds of things can kind of be a thing, but we kind of have our own people too. So it's just like, it is hard to break in. I mean, I'm friends with, I'm on a group chat with 8 planners. I won't mention any names, but all of the best in the industry. And we were talking about like, how do new photo and video teams break in? Because I was talking to when I was mentoring all these students and every single one of them says they don't. And it's sad. And that's the truthfully, until we hear about you, we see your work, we see you consistently, you've been in the industry forever, you've gone through crazy experiences, until we see that, it's really hard for us to be able to pull the trigger and work with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hate to be discouraging because that's not what I'm trying to be. And we love our clients too, that'll come to us and say, hey, we really love XYZ. We've been watching them on social media. Like I love working with new vendors too, as long as I can vet them and know that they're going to deliver the type of, service and the quality that they expect and that we expect as well.
That's such good insight.
It really is as simple as climbing a really long staircase, right? It is step by step, building value, building relationships. And I hear you saying like, be authentic. Yeah. And it's going to take time.
It's going to take time.
Maybe you never get there, but maybe you do.
But and then also when you land the job that you want, what do you do now? Like you need to actually really deliver. Like you need to be, communicative. Like, every planner is different, but we like 2 calls with our photo and video teams prior to the event. The initial, we booked you, we're excited to work together. This is kind of the expectations. And then, a month or 2 weeks before, we're sharing design boards so you can see the visuals, the aesthetics, what we expect, family dynamics. We probably pinged you even before that if we hadn't worked with you or only worked with you once, just to talk through like timing and flow and, formalities and those kinds of things too. But like being present and being open and having those conversations is so important, and asking everything prior to the event weekend. Like if you're asking me, like, if you can post on social media at the event weekend, like you clearly didn't read any of the information we gave you. We haven't had conversations. I mean, silly things like that. I think the pre-communication of the event should just be I say this and people think I'm crazy. The event weekend's the easiest part of my job because it's so well planned. And I have such an incredible team that like when the storm rolls in, we get evacuated because of a fire, we have time and capacity to deal with that. Right? So we're not planning things on the fly. We're not making decisions on the fly. So for me and our team, it's super important to just like have those amazing conversations leading up to the event.
Yeah. And knowing you can trust the parts of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brooke, thank you so much for your insights, your fun personality. It's been a great conversation. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I know I'm very transparent. I don't really hold back. So,
I love it. Thank you that I don't have to be scared of you anymore. This is so great for me now. Next time I see you, I'm definitely saying hi.
I seriously can't believe this. Oh my gosh, you're crazy.
I swear. I knew it.